let's look at the BUS ETF. First off, read this disclaimer carefully, and do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So, we go to what I call specific strategies. And then we have, a new interesting ETF that is all based on, social sentiment. 19% here from the low and, around a 3-ish% pullback. So it is the VanEck Social Sentiment ETF. BUS is the ticker. So BUS holds 75 US listed firms with the most positive investor sentiment online. The fund uses a proprietary AI model to select and weight stocks. So $188 million under management, $1.5 million in average daily liquidity. Okay, so here is the chart weekly data points. We don't really have that much data to go on here, so let's just jump into the dailies. So when we look here at the daily data points, it's a bit of an interesting time cycle that jumps at me. So the time cycle has not been perfect, but you see that there's a general rise decline behavior for this ETF. So here I have drawn in the previous duration of the rallies during the rising phases. So 7 days, 15, 7, 27. So this is so the current rising phase has been going on for 25 days. The only time we spent a longer time in the rising phase is back here, but that was during these key lows here. And so the vast majority of times we would basically be in a declining phase at this point. So that kind of pushes me a bit more in a bearish direction, given that this ETF has had this very clear rise decline time cycle behavior for a long time. You could, however, make somewhat of a bullish take on this inverse head and shoulders pattern. Shoulder, head, and a shoulder. So that is more bullish. So there are certainly some conflicting messages here. The time cycles, and basically all the behavior we see here in the past of this ETF, it strongly suggests that we are very much due a pullback. And on the topic of inverse head and shoulders patterns, you could make the case that we had one here as well, but that one did eventually fail. So that's but if we look at this one, but this was a very big inverse head and shoulders pattern. It did sort of play itself out, but then we did have, a pretty substantial correction not that later. So yeah, the technicals here, they do push me a bit in a bearish direction, but not like roaringly bearish, but nonetheless a bit bearish. Looking at the RSI, we are at a level that for quite some time has called tops, except this major rally here when we did push up into the technical overbought territory. But you see here that after this major rally, this ETF developed its own RSI range. So here seems to be the low end of the RSI, and here is the high end. Distance from the 20-day and the 50-day moving average also at a level that has called highs in the recent past. Okay. Given that this one, it's pretty fresh, it hasn't been trading for that much time, there's not really that much point looking at seasonality. Long-term correlations is something we also do not get. So we go to the short term. There is a 66% positive correlation with the S&P 500, 76% positive with the ARK Innovation ETF. Which is very a very trendish and like mega trendish ETF. And then you have the social media ETF, 30% positive correlation and 31% positive with the dollar index. Here is the seasonality, but it doesn't mean anything because we don't have much data at all. When we compare the BUS with the S&P 500 and look at price earnings, then the price earnings of S&P is 168% above. Though it is very important to be aware that for certain kinds of stocks, it is very difficult to use price earnings. So if you look here at price book ratio here, it's 616 here for the bus. So let's have 616 in mind, and then we look at the S&P 500. Which is at 4.72. So price book wise, bus is significantly higher. When we look a bit here at the holdings, so we have Tesla, AMD, Apple, BlackBerry, Amazon, Moderna, Palantir, Facebook, GameStop, Plug Power, DraftKings, Coinbase. These are companies that's been massively in the news. So definitively very much fitting with the bus ticker. So yeah. So if we go a bit further down, you can see here that this is the sector breakdown. Tech is pretty high up on the list. Not like a huge surprise there. Market cap breakdown, very dominated by large caps. And very much weighted towards United States. So if I were to sum up my take here for bus, I do like to have, a market neutral overall portfolio. So I will always look for bullish trades, but also bearish trades. I think that bus, given what we have seen here, especially with the technicals, I think that you could argue that we have reason to expect some pullback. When we looked here at the fundamentals, these are companies that are that have these very stretched fundamentals in all kinds of different directions. And some of them have run up a lot. If you look at Tesla, which was the top holding. So let's quickly look at Tesla, like that. So when we look here at weekly data points, looking here at the RSI for Tesla, it is at a level that has called highs in the past. So if you look here, similar RSI to what we have now. Here, same kind of RSI. And we were a bit higher back here, but that was followed by a devastating sell-off. So yeah, wouldn't be a huge surprise to see Tesla pull back, and that would be, bearish, for a bus. And could also be a sentiment change overall for the market.